The 1, 2, 3, 4. Welcome friends, my name's Meryl and this is Meryl Mania Guitar. In today's episode I will be teaching you 7 chords you need to know. But unlike other videos, this one will teach you also not just the regular version of every chord, but like an easier alternative option you could choose from in case it's too difficult. Also, I will be teaching a major and a minor version of each chord, and the chords will be like the alphabet. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So let's do it! So basically, every chord is major, unless it says minor, or M for short, in its title. And as a basic summary for now, major chords are the ones that sound happy and bright, and minor chords are the chords that sound sad. There are more reasons to this, but we will go into this in another video because that's more like technical stuff. Anyway, let's get on and do a regular A major chord. A for short. Okay, so what we need to do is we take our first finger, the one next door to the thumb, and place this on the blue D string on fret 2. 1, 2. Okay. Next we take our second finger and place this on the orange G string, also fret 2. And then we take our third finger and place this on the green B string, also fret 2. With the A chord, we can strum down from the A string, my yellow string. So we will strum from the yellow string down. We need to keep our fingers very arched and pressing hard and not touching any other strings. Otherwise, this won't sound too clear. Also, you can use your thumb, if it reaches that is, to mute the E string just by very lightly resting on it. Not pressing, just resting. And this way, if you strum it by accident, it will be muted. So it's a secret mistake. Okay, here we go. Okay, now let's do an easier version of this. All we have to do is take away this finger off of the green B string. There we go. So we're only holding the middle 2 strings and we're going to strum the same amount of strings. Here I go. Okay, technically this is called an A sus2 now, but if you struggle to use 3 fingers and you just wanted to use 2, this would still work as a good substitute for an A chord because it is a type of A chord, it's just a slightly different tonality to it. Now on to A minor. So this is sad sounding now. Okay, so we're going to take our first finger, the one next door to the thumb, and place this on the green B string on fret 1. Then we're going to take our second finger and place this on the blue D string on fret 2. Then we're going to take our third finger and place this on the orange G string on fret 2. Okay, so we're going to actually strum the same amount of strings as before. We're going to strum from the yellow A string down, and it should sound sad. Actually, you can hear quite a big difference from A major to A minor. So A major, happy and bright. A minor, it's sad. Okay, now if you want to do an easier version of A minor, we could just take this finger off. Technically, this is now called an A minor 7 though. Sort of chord Led Zeppelin would have used a lot. I love an A minor 7. Oh, so lovely. But, you know, this is a good substitute if you're struggling to use 3 fingers again. So this would work nicely. Right, enough of that, on to B. Okay, so we're going to do a B like this. It's basically like A major that we did at the beginning, but on fret 4 instead. So let's break this down. I'm going to use my first finger, the one next door to the thumb, and place this on the blue D string on fret 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then my second finger will go on the orange G string of fret 4. And then my third finger will go on the green B string on fret 4. Now this chord is a bit fussier than A because it won't let you strum as many strings, because if you do it will sound bad. No one wants that. So we just only want to strum the strings you are holding, and this is quite tricky, I know. I do a little bit of secret muting here, so it's easier to strum without, hearing the other strings. All I do is I just let my fingers relax and touch the purple E string a bit, so it's muted. You can't really hear it now, so it doesn't matter if I strum it, I'll get away with it. And then my thumb can mute the E string up here, just like we did earlier. And then when it comes to the yellow string, I let this finger on the blue string just ever so slightly touch yellow string coming from underneath. It only has to just barely touch it to make all the difference. So now my yellow string is muted. This way it frees up our right hand and we can strum as we please, and it will still sound tidy and correct. Now, to do an easier version of this chord, we could just take away our third finger. But we can still strum the green string because it's a B string and we're doing a B chord. So it's an open B string. So we're going to strum the same strings as before. The ones we're holding plus the green one. There are also even harder versions of any of these chords I'm teaching you today. There's bar chord versions, there's power chord versions, and just many other versions. So these aren't the only ways of doing these chords. There's actually so many ways of playing every chord. But these are, I would say, the most common ways, and also the easiest ways. So it's a good starting point. And don't feel like you have to learn every single way of doing every single chord. I don't think really anyone knows that. Maybe someone knows that. I would like to meet that guy or girl. They could teach me some stuff. Okay, on to B minor. I'm going to teach you a nice easy version. Most people would do a bar chord B minor, and that might be tricky if you're a beginner. So I'm going to do it like this. I'm going to take my first finger and place this on fret 2 on my purple E string that's closest to the ground. Next, I'm going to take my second finger and place this on fret 3 on my green B string. And then my third finger is going to go on the orange G string on fret 4. It's like little steps. An ant could walk up these. Now, we're only going to strum the strings we are holding, and that's it. That sounds sad because it's minor. So I don't hit these 3 strings by accident and make it sound out of tune like this. I mute these by resting my right hand just lightly on them slightly. And when you have a small amount of strings to strum, this will give your right hand better control if it's resting. And, it's doing 2 jobs because it's also muting. So it just makes strumming that bit more easier. Now, on to the C chord. So let's start off with the regular version first, which is the hardest version. Well, not the hardest version in the world, but the hardest regular version. So let's take our first finger and place this on the first fret on the green B string. Then we take our second finger and place this on the blue D string, fret 2. Okay, so the string in between these fingers is open. And then our third finger is going to go to the yellow A string, fret 3. So it's really important that we keep our fingers very arched for this. Now, the strings we could strum are going to be from the yellow string down. Again, you could use your thumb to mute the E string up here. This way, it doesn't matter if you hit it by accident. It's like, shh, it's a secret. No one will ever know. Except for me, because I taught you it. Okay, let's go to an easier version. All we have to do is take this finger away. But now we will strum from the blue string instead. It sounds pretty much the same. Now for a super easy version of C, I'm going to give you a third option on C here. And this is the one I do with the kids at school. You just take away this finger, so it's a 1-finger chord, and we just strum the 3 strings closest to the ground, so from the orange string down. Again, you can rest your right hand on the unused strings to mute them. Okay, so we have C 3 fingers, 2 fingers, or 1 finger. It's 3 versions. Okay, now on to a C minor. And for this version of C minor, my first finger here on the green string is just going to travel up to here, fret 4, there we go. And then my next 2 fingers are going to go onto fret 5. So one is going to go on the blue D string, okay, like this, and then my other finger is going to go onto the orange G string on fret 5 like this. So fret 4, fret 5, fret 5 on green, blue, orange. Okay, now this is a fussy C minor. We can only strum the strings we are holding, otherwise it will sound out of tune. So again, I'm going to do some muting. I'll let this finger relax, touch the purple E string so it's muted. And then my thumb's going to mute both of these strings this time here. So here we go. That sounds pretty sad. Okay, now on to a D chord. So let's do the regular version first. We're going to take our first finger. Always starts with the first finger, all these chords. And then we're going to pop that on fret 2 on the orange G string. Then we're going to take our second finger and pop that. I quite like the word pop lately. Pop that on fret 2 on the purple E string closest to the ground. And then we'll take our third finger for the 3rd fret on the green B string. So we have this little triangle here. For the D chord, we're going to strum this from the D blue string. Okay, I'm going to just let my thumb rest on these top 2 strings here to lightly mute those. Okay, so it should sound like this. Nice and bright. Okay, let's make this become an easier option. All we have to do is take away this finger off of the purple string, and we're going to strum the same amount of strings as before. Technically, this is called now a D sus2, but it's a good substitute if you're finding regular D with 3 fingers too tricky. It will still sound nice and good and correct. I know the tonality is slightly different, but it will still be fine. No one's that fussy. Or are they? Right, ready for D minor, the sad version of D. Okay, so our first finger is going to go onto the 1st fret on the purple E string closest to the ground. And then our second finger is going to go onto fret 2 on this orange G string. And then our 3rd finger is going to go on the 3rd fret on the green B string. So this is a bit of an awkward one. I find it can hurt your wrist a bit sometimes if you do it too much. But being a minor chord, this is, I feel, one of the saddest of the minor chords. The D minor is so sad. I'm just going to place my thumb on these 2 strings to mute them, because we're going to strum this D minor from the D string. the blue string. Here I go. Oh, it's just so sad. It reminds me of when I got slime stuck in my dolly's hair when I was a kid and I was crying. Anyway, enough of that. Let's go to E now. E major first. Happy. So, this is the most regular version of E. We take our first finger and we place this on the first fret on the orange G string, just there. And then we take our second finger and place this on the yellow A string on fret 2. And then we take our third finger and place this on the blue D string on fret 2. Now, with this chord, we can strum every single string, so that's quite nice for our right hand. It's nice and free. And again, with all these chords, it's we don't want to touch the other strings unless we are muting them on purpose. Otherwise, we should keep our fingers super arched. Now, let's explore a few versions that are easier of this E chord. So, one way of doing this is we could take away our first finger and just play the 3 strings closest to you. This would be an easier version of E because it only uses 2 fingers instead of 3 fingers. Or you could put this finger back and take away these 2 fingers instead. And then we would just play the 3 strings furthest away from you, nearest to the ground. That's the 1 finger version of E. Nice and easy. But let's look at E minor now, the sad E chord. Okay, so what we need to do is just hold fret 2 on the yellow A string, like we were earlier, and fret 2 on the blue D string, just like we were earlier. We don't need any other fingers, and we're going to strum all of the strings. Okay, so that's a sad version of E, because it's E minor. Now we're working our way through the alphabet, so F. Okay, let's do an F. So for this, we want to use our first finger on the first fret, but it's tricky because we're going to do barring, but not all the strings. This isn't going to be a full bar chord. Bar chords are going to be in a different lesson. This is more just like regular chords. So our finger is going to hold the green string, the B string on fret 1, but it's also going to hold the purple E string on fret 1. It needs to press on both strings, so it needs to be flat, not arched. If it's arched, it can't press on both. Unless you have massive sausage fingers and you're a total giant. Then maybe that's an exception. But otherwise, it needs to be very flat. The only way you're going to achieve it probably to be this flat is if your thumb is hanging low with a nice gap between your palm of your hand and the neck of the guitar. Your thumb also needs to be pointing towards the sky. Not on this side. Not like this, but like this. Also, if your thumb was high, that would make your finger arch. So we don't want the thumb high. It's really important to have the thumb low, pointing up towards the sky. Okay, next we're going to take our second finger and place this on fret 2 on the orange G string. And then we take our third finger and place this on fret 3 on the blue D string. Now we're going to strum from the blue string down. Here I go. Okay, so there's that. Now let's make this become an easier version. What we could do is just take away these 2 fingers. Ta-da! And then we just hold basically the green and purple strings on fret 1. But you could do it with 2 fingers like this now if you wanted to, because we have enough fingers spare to do it like this instead of like this. Either way is good though. Whichever's most comfortable for you is fine. Let's do it like this actually. Okay, but it's a very fussy version because we only want to strum the strings you are holding. So my right hand is going to rest on all those unused strings. Now just lightly just rest it on it. There we go. Because if we now strum the strings we're resting on, they're muted, which is good. That's what we want. Okay, let's look at an F minor chord. So a sad version. Now, it's not going to change a whole bunch. It's just basically these two fingers here are just going to go a string up towards your face. Boop, boop. So now I'm holding fret 1 on the orange G string, fret 1 on the green B string, and then my third finger is now going to be added on the purple E string on fret 1. Now this is an easy version of F minor, and we only want to strum the strings you are holding like this. Okay. Quite commonly people would do a bar chord F minor or F major. But we will explore bar chords in a different lesson. That's going to be its own bubble, a bar chord bubble lesson. Today's just other stuff. Now, let's look at G. So, last letter of the musical alphabet, if you don't include flats or sharps. And that will be another lesson also. So, let's do the regular version first. We're just going to take the first finger and place this on the yellow A string, fret 2. Then we're going to take the second finger and place this on the reddy orangey coloured E string, fret 3. And then we're going to take the third finger and put this on the 3rd fret on the green B string. And then the little finger and place this on fret 3 on the purple E string closest to the ground. So this is probably the hardest one of today's lesson because it's using 4 fingers, but I will go into an easier version of this in just a moment. With this chord, we can strum all of the strings. And it's super important on this chord that our fingers are very arched and not touching any other strings. And like with all chords, you want to press hard enough and get as close to the metal line as you possibly can, because if you're not, it won't maybe sound so clear. Okay, on to a slightly easier version. I'm going to give you a few versions of G. Now, a slightly easier version would be just to take this finger off of the green string. Okay, there we go. We can still strum all the strings. Okay. Now, another version would be to take this finger away off the yellow string. But if we do that, we want this finger now to mute the yellow string just by slightly touching it. So now we're no longer going to arch this finger that much. So you can hear all the strings being strummed just then, except for the yellow one. Okay, now on to another easier version of G. We could just now hold fret 3 on the green B string and the purple E string. But if we do this version, we only want to strum from the G string down. So this orange string down. Now for another easy version. We could just take away this finger. So now we're just holding the purple E string. We're going to strum the same amount of strings, by the way. Now for the easiest G chord in the world. The no finger version. All we strum here is the D string, which is blue, the G string, which is orange, and the green string, which is the B string. Just opens. I guess technically it's actually a chord inversion. It would be written as a G/D chord because the D we are hearing is the bass note of the chord, but it would still work if you were really struggling, if your hands fell off and you're like, but I really want to play guitar with my other hand, then this would work for G. Just the one-handed version, just strumming these 3 strings. So if your fingers ever fall off, you can still play guitar. So with G, actually there's so many ways because there's this way, this way, this way, this way, this way, And this way. So take your pick. Now let's look at the sad G, G minor. To do this, it's not too hard. We just take our first finger and place this on fret 3. 1, 2, 3 on the orange G string. And then our second finger goes on fret 3 on the green B string. I almost forgot the name. And then the third finger goes on fret 3 on the purple E string closest to the ground. But again, it's a fussy chord. We only want to strum just the strings you're holding. Okay, it's quite sad now. So let's remember something important. All chords are major unless it says minor, or M for short, meaning minor. So if you could just learn even just one version of A, B, C, D, E, F, G, major and minor, then you will be able to play so many songs. And I know it's tricky at first, switching from chord to chord. Like, it might be slow. It might take 10 seconds to get from one chord to the next. But in the early days, that's completely normal. I mean, you should have seen me. I was horrendously bad. But with practice, you will build progress and muscle memory. And eventually, you will be able to just do these movements automatically. I know it's a lot to think about at first. It's really is like a multitasking thing when we learn guitar. But it will click into place if you just repeat. So your homework is to choose at least 2 chords and write your own song with them. It has to be about a silly topic like ants that drive cars. So thank you so much for subscribing, or if you're about to subscribe. And here are my social media handles. So remember, practice makes progress. Keep it fun, people. And I'll see you cats on the flippity flop.